There's no question wherever I am, you can always hear my heels, so forgive me for that. Good afternoon. It's so exciting to be here, and it's my pleasure to start off our Hall of Fame and talk about women's athletics. We have an amazing group of inductees today. We get to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX and our rich history of Bushnell with women's athletics. I've invited a few of my friends to join us here on stage today, so please welcome current Bushnell female student athletes. I've asked these women to join me on stage for two reasons. One, I want you to see what athletics looks like, and they're a representation of the hard work that many of you have done in this room to get us to where we are today. The second reason, so you have something else to look at other than myself. So there's that. As we stand on this stage, all of us are products of a post-Title IX era. We stand here because of the courageous work that was done by many of you in this room. We've come a long way since 1972, when Title IX was passed into law. A law that states, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefit of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving financial federal aid. Title IX has changed the landscape in America. Many things we do today we take for granted, but were because of Title IX's passing. I'm hopeful that some of our inductees today will tell stories of their times playing volleyball here in 1970s. We received many calls from individuals who played before then and in the 60s who talked about their playing of volleyball and our rich history. I, like the women behind me, grew up playing athletics. Opportunities for participation are not necessarily the issue anymore. There are other things that now we need to focus on and continue to grow in. Areas like equity in pay, representation in leadership, and visibility. Last year, around this time, at the NAI's annual convention, the NAI wanted to pass a bylaw stating that every campus needed to have representation of female leadership and wanted to have a senior women's leader on every campus. I naively thought that would pass with no problem and we would move on to the next agenda. Sadly, I was wrong. We had many hours of discussion and even debate on whether we should have this position, a position that did not require funding. It was merely a designation so our female student athletes had representation. One athletic director, in his own words, said, "We cannot hire women. There are no women here for us to hire." He was not alone. There are many athletic departments that then chimed in to say, "We have no women on our staff." I'm thankful to say that the NAI and the athletic directors and the presidents of the NAI did pass this in. Starting this next fall, there will have to be a senior women's leader on every campus, so our women have representation. Women's athletics, like enrollment in college, is about 60% female. Our women need people to look up to. They need to see them in administration roles and in coaching roles. And for me, one of the things that was so shocking and that I found hard to understand was because I'm at Bushnell. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and we're part of the Cascade Collegiate Conference. We're part of a conference that empowers women. Within our conference, there are 5 female athletic directors. There are numerous assistant and associate athletic directors, athletic trainers, sports information directors, and women in leadership, including myself, our 2 athletic trainers, and our assistant sports information director. Our women get to see women every day in the athletic field, and we're blessed because of it. The landscape has changed. It's taken its time, it's gradual, and we still have work to do. But today our celebration is about the past and about the women who have paved the way so that we could be here and our rich history. So now let's talk about our timeline. Our timeline, which as I mentioned, started before 1972. There were women on campus playing volleyball in the 60s. In 1971, previous to the passing of Title IX, intercollegiate athletics started with volleyball at Northwest Christian. We also had men's basketball at the time. In 1972, a year later, Title IX was passed. In 1975, a class that we are celebrating today, the Crusaders volleyball team went undefeated to win the PNCC championship. In 1999, women's softball began. In 2004, intercollegiate women's basketball began. As you'll hear throughout this timeline, something that I'm so proud of for us is that we have so many firsts on this campus that were done by women. In 2006, we joined the NAI and the Cascade Collegiate Conference, which is also when intercollegiate volleyball returned, with the addition of women's soccer and women's cross country. In 2007, women's golf began. In 2011, women's cross country became the first team to qualify for an NAI championship. Again, a first for our campus, and it was a women's team. In 2011, I was also named Assistant Athletic Director, a first female administrator for us. In 2013, intercollegiate track began. In 2014, women's cross country won its first CCC championship. In 2015, women's cross country won the NAI National Championship. You can see throughout this, as I'm going through the timeline, why we're inducting Dr. Heike McNeil into our Hall of Fame. In 2015, I was also named Associate Athletic Director. In 2016, our head athletic trainer at the time, Pam Walsh, was named CCC Athletic Trainer of the Year. In 2018, another first for us and a woman, Bailey Dell became our first NAI individual national champion in the javelin. In 2019, Annika Rasabala-Womack wins the national championship in the steeplechase. We also had in 2019 Priscilla Kennedy, who's on stage with us today, and Caitlin Park become our first female gamers in our esports program. In 2020, women's basketball won their first CCC championship, a feat that has been repeated. In 2021, volleyball qualified for the NAI National Championship, which they have also repeated. Which brings us to 2022. This year, an all-female induction class into our Hall of Fame, and the year that we started beach volleyball. Which leads me to ask, what's next? What's next for the women on this stage? What's next for Beacons and the women here on campus? What new ideas, what heights are we going to go to? I have some ideas and thoughts, but I know that God is going to lead us in areas we haven't even discovered. Before we get too excited about the future, we're here today to celebrate the past and the women who have come before us to allow us to even be on this stage. As we go through today's ceremony, my prayer is that we reflect on these amazing accomplishments of these women and that we remember to celebrate their impact on our campus, in sport, on our lives, and on each other. This is an amazing time to be in women's athletics, and we thank you for joining us today.